Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode. I'm joined today by Jewel. Hi, Jewel. Hi.
Hi.
It's always funny to say hi, then hit record and say hi again, just to
Yeah.
be transparent, everyone. Um, so Jules here, she's a time hacker certified coach, and she specializes now on connection and relationships. So we're going to get into all of that together today. Um, I guess normally I'd say introduce yourself, but I feel like I just introduced
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely ecstatic.
you. Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here. Why don't you share a little bit with the listeners around what even brought you to this work?
To time hacking or to coaching in general?
You can do both.
Both? Okay. What brought me to this work? Well, oh my goodness. So I've been doing this for about 6 years. I've been doing coaching, and pretty much specializing in friendship that entire time. And what brought me to that was struggling, uh, growing up, feeling lonely myself. I am not very close to my family, and growing up just had like a very lonely childhood. I was very socially anxious. And when I graduated from college, I started to experience what a lot of people experience. It's totally normal. It's called the friendship dip. And it's where you go from spending so much time around your peers to, right, like people start moving, they start, having kids or getting married, or, you start working around people that aren't in your peer group all the time. And I was like, oh, okay, great, cool. I've been lonely and socially anxious the majority of my life, and now, like, this is happening. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And so I just really started learning everything I could about friendship, about social anxiety, really just to work on it myself with no intention to ever, like, do coaching or anything. And mindset was such a big part of my own work. I shouldn't say I ended up because it was 1,000% intentional, but I created like my what I would call like my dream friend group, like the friends that I had always like dreamed about. People started noticing that I was more confident when I was like walking into places. Um, and I mean, so much so that like I was going on girls' trips, and I had people like messaging me privately. And I had known, like learning about this work, that loneliness was prevalent, but it wasn't until I was starting to get some of those messages where I was like, oh, it's really not just me. Like it's really a problem. And I've been in love with it ever since. I would just decided, okay, I'm gonna like, explore coaching here. And it just has grown from there. And that also really brought me to like time hacking into your work, because something that comes up often is like, oh, I don't have the time. Like sometimes I'll be talking with people, and sometimes it'll be a networking event, sometimes it'll even be a new client, and they'll be like, I want this so bad. Like truly, like this is one of my top priorities, but I cannot think of how I can have the time for it. And so that was just something that was coming up so often, as well as like going through like the time hacker certification. So much of those principles also apply to friendship, because I feel like they're also just like life principles. So anyway, that is how I got brought into into this world, but also into your world.
Yes. Actually, we met inside a mastermind years ago, right? Like that's how we
Yes.
together. Fun. Yeah, I think it's so true. I think the reason why I focus on time is because time is like kind of the first blocker to people creating any kind of change, whether it's social, whether it's health or fitness related, whether it's I'd love to start my own business or whatever it might be. It's like the time narrative is so out there and such a block. And I think outside of these rooms where we're really intentional around it, it's kind of accepted. So not only will like the people that came to you and were like, oh, I would love to have a more active social life or a community around me, but I don't have time. Like their mum is agreeing with them. Their like
Mhm.
high school best friend who lives on the other side of the country is agreeing with them. Like in like the general population, I think that's people say that and people are like, yeah, you're right. I understand you don't have time. So I
Mhm.
think it's not surprising uh,
Yeah.
that that was coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's something too, how do I want to say this? It's something too, it's really interesting because again, I decided like to set out and be like, okay, I'm sick of this like experience for myself. Like I'm going to make friends. Like I'm going to do that. And I wasn't out to just like make new friends because we all kind of know how to meet new people, right? Like I wasn't just looking to like expand my social circle. Like I wanted to create deep, meaningful, confidant level relationships where I could like go to them and feel comfortable inconveniencing them for support and like being honored when they like come to me, right? And it's such a balance though because there's a lot of research on that and how that does take time. And I did that much faster than a lot of that research like suggests, but also that I think when we hear that thought, because people say it takes about 200 hours to make like a best friend, to feel like so close with somebody, again, that you're comfortable, like inconveniencing them, they're a confidant. And when people hear that immediately, I think what happens for some people, like even for maybe some of your listeners, they might even notice like in their body, they're like, oh my gosh, like that is way too much. I can't do that. But again, one, I feel like it did not take me 200 hours. But also, two, when we're talking about like friendship, I'm not talking about like adding something to your plate, like another thing you have to do. I want friendship to be something that is stress relieving, energy giving, because that's what we know connection to be
Hmm.
already, right? Like, I I want friendship to be a part of people's lives as a way for them to feel like supported and seen and to have fun. Like we're not talking about right, like you have to, work 200 hours on like this super intense project or anything. So it's also I just want to offer it's like life-giving, it's energy giving.
Yeah.
And so that time, if you will, like it reminds me a lot of if everybody's like familiar with like Vicky's posts, right? Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go hang out like with my little guy, like with your kid for, you know, X amount of hours today. Like it's also friendship is also about like how we live our life, right? And so time hacking principles not just apply to help you make it faster, but also it's I feel like at the heart of what time hacking is about. It's like, okay, how do you want to live your life? Because I'm sure for a lot of people, it is that they want to make memories and have these bonds. So I also, one thing you touched on, like it's super little, but I think it's important, is you said, oh yeah, we met in a mastermind years ago. And I also want to say, yes, I was so grateful to have gotten to know you in that mastermind, but I will say that was also, I watched you like grow into this brand and create it, and I had gotten to experience like firsthand like your coaching and your ideas in that room. And I will say like even those ideas back then where I feel like time hacking was like being created were helpful for me because I was also doing the same thing, right, with my friendship work. They were helpful in the way that I thought about all of it. So I knew like when this thing started coming up in my sessions, when this like common phrase, that I was like, oh my gosh, like I absolutely like need to like go. You were like, oh, we're doing a certification, and I was like, I'm in, let's go, because I had already like experienced and had already changed the way that I operated in the world. Like some of your work has already helped me. So
Oh, I love that so much. And I think it taps into what we're saying here as well, because I'm going to pick up on that 200 hours.
yeah.
Because I also remember there's a lot of narratives that I pulled apart around like 10,000 hours to be an expert at
Mhm.
something. But I think that mastermind and that experience is such a powerful example because we all knew each other the same amount of time. So what is it
Hmm.
that 6 years later or 5 years later, I think it is, maybe four, I actually don't know, has led us to connect, to reconnect in this way that led you to, certify and want to be into the Time Hackers tools. It certainly wasn't like the number of hours that we spent on weekly sessions together. Um,
Right.
so I, so yeah, I think it's like I was also thinking about that meme or that joke around like, like your best friends in like the toilet of a bar and you like become like best friends with these people. You just have
Yeah.
like a soul connection or like not a soul connection, but I think it's all for me, like connection is really about like looking people in the eye. I was
Hmm.
thinking about it when I dropped my son off at school. He has like fortunately he has to have security outside of his school, but like it's so easy to just run in and run out and be late and be somewhere instead of like giving eye contact and thanks and checking in with these
Hmm.
people who are responsible for the safety of your child. And I thought about it this morning when I was like, it's just interesting. Like now we have a connection and a relationship because of those like micro moments where
Hmm.
every parent is passing through and spending the same amount of time there. But like, yeah, do you want to
Yeah.
speak to that at all about like being intentional in the moments that we have?
Absolutely. And I couldn't have said it better myself. You have such clear examples. Yet connection can happen in an instant, in a single moment. And the connection, right, that feeling, but we have to know how to connect with each other and practice it and to live that way. And so one thing that you said was, oh, like being intentional. I think like you said, like in those micro moments, like eye contact is really huge. I think what that reflects is also like, oh, I see you. I see you, other human in front of me. I see you. I'm curious about you. Um, and even like I want to share with you. That's really at the end of the day what connection boils down to is it's two people feeling safe and seen in a satisfying way. That somebody her name is Shasta Nelson, always says, and I think that's the most accurate thing in the world, right? It's when we feel safe and seen in a satisfying way. And those moments, again, like you could happen with somebody, like if you're standing at the bus stop, right? Like, and that's what like friendship is ultimately built on. Um, but yeah, no, I think if we know how to connect with each other, then we can practice it. But also, it really aligns again with like time hacking in general. Because if you're really present with what you're doing, and very intentional about it, like you are going to create friends. And this is coming again, y'all. Like I started this, I had a full-time job. I was really busy. I had all of these like things going on. And then the beginning of the pandemic hit, and I still had these friendships and these relationships. Even while we were globally shut down in our homes, like I still fostered and created these in again, like with being really busy and so on. And I say busy, I don't really like that word, but like with a full life, with a full schedule, and that's true even to this day. I had somebody say to me, oh, well, Jewel, you don't have kids. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I can see where your thought is about that. But I've also worked with a lot of moms, right? And if you have, like, especially, I'm assuming, right, with the toddler years based on stuff, like, if you have somebody who, like, needs a lot of attention all the time, needs support, I think you especially too have to be aware of like when you're talking with your friends and like, okay, am I like being intentional and connecting and really like seeing this individual in front of me and like vice versa. However, you can do it, right? Like again, I've worked with a lot of moms. I've some of them which we know that I know that are in both of our communities, which is so fun. There's a few of them actually.
Yeah.
Um, and
I can
so yeah.
even just to share with you now, like, so actually my two closest friends, one of them, like our moms were literally pregnant together, and the other one I've known since I was three, which is very rare. But that's had me live across five different continents. That's had them get married and have kids before me. And, like makeups, breakups, like all the things, different lives, like different, completely different lifestyles. Like we wouldn't, yeah. But actually, just this week, me and nine of my girlfriends have booked to go to Spain in July together. We're all mums, all got different ages, like all different needs, like different responsibilities, different careers, like living in different cities. And we just decided to do it. And I think you can come up with a million reasons why you can't. And I saw in the chat initially, like, oh, I'm not sure about this date and I can't because of this. And then it's like once we committed and we set the date, everyone just kind of
Mhm.
like got in line and moved those pieces. And like another example is I think it's really easy to think about why I can't do something as a mum versus I think you know that as I just spent a month in Spain with nine strangers, strange mums, they're not strange, and their kids, and it's like so powerful and I was living with another mum and her kids, and just like again that connection, that deepening, that relationship. And there was one day where she had to work and I wasn't. And I was like, and she was going to get a babysitter, and I was like, yeah, but I'm here. So what if I just play with the kids? She was like, what, for 5 hours? I was like, yeah. And it was just so amazing to have that level of trust, that connection, that ability to like be free and be flexible. My son had a bike and I didn't, and she did with her daughters. So if we went out for dinner or to the beach, she's like, I'll cycle down with him and I could just like walk and have my own space. Like I just think it's like, it gets to look, it's definitely, and probably you can talk to this more, like it's definitely going to look different to how it was in high school or when you're in the
Mhm.
same peer group. Um, but I don't think that has to be a problem because, you can build it. I think that's what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. Like it does take like being intentional at the like micro moments you have, but it also takes being intentional like, okay, I'm gonna do this. But what you described is one thing that I talk to a lot of moms about, and it's like include your kids. It's really
Yeah.
good. It's really good. It's
It's
really
so much
healthy for
easier
them.
for me when there's like
Yeah.
another kid there. I'm like, this is the best.
Yeah, it includes your kids. And we're seeing as at least over here, in like where I'm from the US, like there's a lot of data coming out about how parents are spending more time with just their kids and not as much time like with other parents and their kids. Like we're spending more and more isolated time. And I think about that. And again, I'm not a parent myself. However, I do think about that as, somebody who's not a parent but a child, who's been a child. And I think about all of the times that my parents took me somewhere, and my parents are introverts, like extreme introverts a little bit. And when they would take me to their friends' houses, and it didn't matter if their kid was like the kids at their friend's house was 5 years older than me, was a 3-year-old, doesn't matter. Like, go play, like, go be in this room. And I think about how good that was for me. But we tend to, I think, overcomplicate it or to, be like, oh, well, my kids. I don't know. I actually don't know what the thoughts are actually participating in that. I can only imagine. But I do think it's really interesting because if you're spending that time, like you're not like having those moments to bond with other people and fill up, because truthfully, friendship is life-giving, it's energy-giving, right? So you're not having those moments to fill up your cup, to feel close, to feel seen, supported. And I just think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think you're touching on something really powerful here, which is like when we think about socializing our kids, are we prioritizing their age, right? Versus like I said, a lot of my close friends have kids that are older. So it just so happens I'm like, I'm gonna go hang out with my friend and you're gonna play with their kids, whatever age they are. And especially because a lot of them live in London. So it's like, no, I'm going to London. We're gonna do it's almost like I've not had the opportunity to overthink it, but I think it is another of like those time rules where we sometimes, and there's a lot of data actually coming out that kids that are socialized across different age groups, there's
Mm.
so many benefits to that. Um, so I think it's really interesting to play with the idea that like because my kid is 3 and your kid is 3, that's the optimal social experience for them. Like, what if it's not? Because I've seen my
Mhm.
son really thrive. Um, Actually, so typically it's around older kids, but if I'm thinking back to Spain, like there was an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old that he super bonded with that like, was still messaging and the 9-year-old he's American and he's a youngest child, but he got to be like an older sibling to my son. And it was like just having that experience. And even the mum now is like, he's benefited so much, has come here and spoken to his older siblings about what it was like for him to be an older sibling. And just really, I really think that, and there's a few schools in the UK where they don't put kids in by age group. I mean, they're really expensive and really private, but also is that how you know that they're good? Like, it's just interesting that almost again, another area where we're giving time credit for connection versus like, what if your kid can just connect independent of the age?
Yes, that was such a key thing. We're giving time credit for connection. I absolutely so true because I think if people think, oh, well, I have kids, and I want to be clear too, y'all. Like, I currently, right now, I live in like Michigan, it's the one that looks like a mitten. I call it America's High Five, and it's cornfields. Like where I live, up above me is like cornfields and a whole lot of nothing. And a lot of my friends live like an hour from me right now. And that's something that often comes up, excuse me. But that's something that often comes up as well for people is like, oh, well, I don't have the time. Like if I have kids and I'm in this suburban sprawl, or like I don't have time to drive or to get or to do things with my friends. And I think that's also we need to be more flexible about all of these like rules that come up. Because for me, for example, my I have a friend that lives like 30 minutes away, and another friend and I every Monday we go to this friend's house and we sit like we both like commute because she's in the her house is in the middle between us, and we go and we like sometimes like for the longest time I was trying to get in the habit of like making sure I was like budgeting weekly. Like it was something I really wanted to do for myself. And so I would go there and like fill out my budget. My other friend would be like folding her laundry. And like when you think of that, that's not like a, oh, we have like this super planned, as you see on social media, aesthetically cute activity. No, this is us doing our life together. I also think people need to be a little bit more flexible about what friendship is about because that has been wildly connected for me. And I'm going there and like just like what I brought like a couple other Mondays ago was like this like paint by numbers thing. And I just sat there on the floor. We all like talked and it's it's super bonding and connective to have that time. It's also, I will say, one of my those friends that's a part of that group has told me straight up. They were like, "Jewel, if you were my friend, I do not think I would have close friends because I do not think I think my natural way of being is that I would just be going through the world and then I would end up being really lonely because I wouldn't prioritize this because I would think it took a lot. So time is not responsible for our connection. It goes across so many ways though. Like, yes, I'm talking about going there and like spending time there, but also in those moments, right, we're being like I'm looking at my friends and being really intentional about like being curious with them. Uh like I broke it down with one of my clients one day because we were actually talking about this, Vicky. You would love this conversation, but I broke it down with her. And she was saying like I don't know what else I could do besides like reaching out and like spending time with them. And I was like, okay, let's talk a little bit more about how you want to feel, right? And so we talked about like what does connection feel like? I think a lot of us don't even know what that is anymore, based on the conversations I'm having at least. So we'll be like, okay, what makes you feel like supported? What makes you feel seen? What makes you feel like you're having fun? Like what about those feelings? And if we were to bring up that like menu and like bring up any one of those feelings in our bodies, then how are you likely to interact with somebody? Because it's also completely different. Because if you think of friendship as just, oh, I need to make time for it, even if, maybe you're in a situation like me where, I'm in grad school, I'm doing all these things that I love. And I like make sure to go see my friends because it's life-giving for me. But let's say you're in the same situation as me, and that thought is coming up of like, okay, I don't have the time. I'm too busy. Schedule's too full. People are too far away. You're thinking all these things. Then even if you were to be like, oh, okay, I guess like I'll call my friend or a friend does call me, one, you're less likely to pick it up in the first place, but like, and to talk with them. But two, it's a little bit rushed, right? It's a little bit like, oh, okay, you're not actually like feeling connected, even if you're spending time with that person, whether it's on the phone or so and whatever. Because I'll tell you what, when I go on those like Monday nights, I go there. and I'm excited to see my friends. I'm so like I could feel it in my entire body just even as I'm talking to you. Like I'm like, what what happened this week for you? How's our things going here? And oh my gosh, did you guys see this? And like I come with this energy because I'm just so excited about them. I'm so excited about our friendship. And excitement doesn't even have to be it. Sometimes I go and I'm really stressed. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, you know what I mean? I need to come and like be supported. But truthfully, like bringing up those feelings that we want to feel in our bodies, like I do it naturally now because I've been doing it so often, but it's one thing I challenge clients to do before they even go to spend time with somebody
Yeah.
is like I give them certain prompts to like think about before. And now again, it's become like a habit for me. I'll literally be in the car and I'll start to feel like emotions rise in my body because I'm going there with the intention to connect. So kind of rambly here, but I think it's what you said. I just wanted to offer like a bunch of different threads for how we can pull that
Yeah.
and untie that thought because I think that is so ingrained in us.
Yeah. And like as you're speaking, I'm just loving for the people listening to even get the idea that like you can come and do the time coach certification and you get to apply it to like different niches. I think, is the word or whatever, but
Hmm.
different areas, because it really is like under the pool, because even like underneath it, it's like, do you need to spend a certain amount of time with people to maintain the relationship? I'm thinking about my friends, like I said, I was living in New York, like when one of my best friends had her first child and then she had like three and then it was like and she had a full-time corporate job and it was like she just wasn't as available as I was. That was just like factual.
Hmm.
And understanding that like our relationship didn't and our closeness and our love didn't actually depend on speaking once a week because that wasn't available for her at that point in time. um
Hmm.
and allowing that movement and that flow of like it's not always about having time. I think we overvalue the time we give, and I think in relationships as well, we can almost, this was a lesson for me, we can almost be like, oh, if this person doesn't have time for me, they don't care, versus like, no, we have different things happening in our lives all the time. It's something me and my friends joke about. It's like this is not the era of our most social lives, but the connection and the love is still there. um, One thing I wanted to share with everyone, actually, because you guys might not know this about me, but why I love Jules' work in particular is I've spoken on this podcast about my previous startup that I closed because of burnout. What you might not know is that startup was also its mission was solving the loneliness epidemic and bringing people together, and that was like a big calling. So I think it's just there's so many, unfortunately, it's so common, it's so normalized. It feels like we're getting further apart. Um, Not closer together with, like extremism and social media and all of this stuff. And we're forgetting about human connections. And it's easier to do that the less we are connected. So it's like what comes first.
Hmm.
Um, and I just think, I always thought this when I had my little one. Like I can be struggling here, and there could be like a mum like in the same block of flats down a few doors, and we could just like sit there together
Yeah.
feeding our babies. And that would already, like you say, change things. I was really lucky. I gave birth and moved in with my parents for 6 months, so there were people around, but it's just like how often are we overcomplicating, like, oh, I need to go to this, like download this friendship app and then message 10 people and then two of them reply and then we try to make a plan for 3 weeks out, but then my kid gets sick and then we try like versus like connecting with someone, I don't know, in the supermarket and being like, hi,
Yeah.
you have a kid, I
Hmm.
have a kid, like hell. I remember someone doing that when I took my son to get a haircut and I was like, yeah, we can definitely meet up, like let's do it. And it's just gets to be that easy.
Yeah, it gets to be that easy. And there's also so much data, like even if, because I think what happens for some people, at least the people that I see and like I'm working with, is they'll be like, oh, but like I don't want to put my energy there if it's not going to turn into something, is something that comes up often, right? Like
Like
truly,
dating, I hear that with dating.
yes, exactly. But there's so much like so much data, and it doesn't matter if somebody is introverted or they're socially anxious. But there's so much data on if you interact even with a stranger in a supermarket or with somebody that's next to you on a train, somebody you don't know, that you are going to enjoy that interaction. You're likely going to enjoy that interaction, right? And feel so much better than if you didn't talk to people at all. Like there's so much, the people, there was a study done, I'm obsessed with it, but they were going on this train, and then they asked people, and again, introverts, extroverts, socially anxious are not alike. They asked everybody, okay, and they split the group. So they had one group like be like, okay, you're not going to talk to people, and then this other group talk to people. And in the group that were like, oh, I'm not going to talk to somebody, right? Like, I'm going to read a book, I'm going to listen to music, I'm going to take a nap. They were like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I'm going to really enjoy, this train ride. It's going to be great. And then the people that were like assigned to talk to somebody were like, I don't want it, right? Don't want to do it. And the results were like the people that talked to somebody on that short train ride got off of the train ride feeling so much better and have enjoyed the train ride so much more. But I think what that shows us is we think this takes energy. And don't get me wrong, there's moments that are unpleasant or uncomfortable, especially in close relationships. The price of closeness is a little bit of unpleasantness sometimes. There's no other way around it. However, I think what that study shows us is that we think innately socializing is draining, and the opposite is true. Right? And those people that got off of that train are likely feeling really connected, right? This is with a stranger. And who knows, right, what that could turn into. So I love the way you described like so many of these things. Like there could be a mom, like you said, oh, living, like across the street, two doors like down from my place or whatever, that's feeling the same way. I actually met this past weekend. Um, I met it's somebody that's in my partner's family. So she's joining the family. And so I met her at Thanksgiving, and then while we were at her house for Thanksgiving, these people were coming over, and I was like, "Oh, who are these people?" And she was like, "These are people that I met 2 years ago that were in my apartment building, and they were completely different backgrounds, races, ethnicities, ages, and like a complete melting pot. Also in like Bay City, Michigan, which again, that's a city around a lot of farms, like a lot of farmland around it. And I was like, this is exactly like this is exactly it. So I was asking her all these questions because I hear all the time about, oh, it's so hard, it's so hard, it's so hard. There's no time, what if people aren't similar to you, etc. And here are all these people that could not be more different from each other, living in this building and just like created community truthfully just by interacting with each other. And they described each other as family. They have only known each other for 2 years. So it's such that right there is just such like a indicator of like, no, like we can really create connection. It's really just about how we live our lives. That's the way I like to think about it, is like I like to live a connected life. And so truthfully, how and like if somebody's listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I want that. I think really it goes with like, okay, how do I want to feel? Like when I'm going out, even into the supermarket, like it's such a mind shift of like, oh, here are these other humans, right, doing their best in the world. Like I wonder about other people's stories, little simple thoughts like that. It doesn't have to be like everyone's amazing all the time, but like it doesn't have to be like that.
I'm so energized and I'm ready to speak to strangers. And that's,
Right.
yeah. I
But it
also
makes such a difference.
yeah,
Mhm.
like another mindset that I think is helpful just for the people listening, if you're like, I don't really connect with my feelings that much. When I was working in London years ago in the city, and I used to live in East London, it was like a 30-minute walk to the office. And I loved walking rather than getting on the tube. And I'm from Manchester. It's like in the north. We're very friendly. We smile at strangers. Like it's just a much friendlier city, and the norms here are just different. That I would say to myself, I want to see how many smiles back I can get on the way to work. So I'd like have my headphones in. I
Mm.
wouldn't be stopping and chatting because I was like on a mission to get to work. And London is very much like everyone's face down going somewhere. Um, but I created this like little game of like, I just wonder how many smiles back I can get. And I would probably smile to like 20 to 30 people and probably get like two or three smiles back. But then sometimes it would be five. And whatever it was like that micro moment, like we're saying, and letting that, and it was almost like it didn't matter that there were 25 to 28 that were like, is this woman like, is this girl crazy? Or is this girl hitting on me? I got that a few times. Um, it didn't matter that those things happened because like you say, the micro moments of like connection superseded that. Like the value of that was so high.
Mhm.
So if you're someone who's listening who's like, oh, I can't really connect with my feelings that much, a way you might want to do it is operating with that experimenter mindset, gamifying it, and like bringing curiosity and just being like, you could take what Jules said today and be like, I'm just curious. If I could start a conversation with someone on the train, I'm just curious if I could, like, what would I say to someone at the checkout at the supermarket? I'm just like, I've had someone come up to me in the store, like buying hair products and be like, oh, what hair product do you like? Just like, how could you do it? Like, just
Mhm.
play with it. Because what I don't think either of us want anyone to take from this is like a shutdown further of like doing it wrong, which is obviously not the time hacker way. But really, I just think, like, what if you could play with connecting this week? And what if it doesn't? I'm even going to say this, Joel, I hope it's okay. Like, what if it doesn't even need words to begin with? If that feels too much, I think the idea from today would be what is one thing you can implement so that you can start to have a more connected life and a more connected self.
Mhm. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I think too you're gonna see possibilities by it, like taking any of these things, you're gonna see possibilities. Your mind is gonna open a little bit. Like the things that we're talking about sometimes I think are just like widely accepted and like we're like, "Oh, yeah, no, it's hard or I'm far away from my friends, so I can't be close to them." And so like questioning these thoughts is also really helpful. When it comes to friendship too, I just want to say, because what we're talking about, like, yes, you can connect with somebody and create connection in an instant, but also this mindset applies when you are like creating like these deep, meaningful bonds, because yes, that can happen. Again, I know it so personally because I created it way faster than I was told it would or than I originally thought it would,
I'm
right?
hacking.
Yeah, yeah, right. And I also want to say when it comes to that, one thing you said earlier that I just want to bring back, and it ties in with this experimenter mindset. Because let's say somebody is listening to this and they're around people all the time and they're like, yeah, like I'm doing this and I'm feeling the possibility and they're experiencing that and they're creating bonds. And let's say they're like, oh, but I want to feel closer. Because that was me, right? I struggled with loneliness like my entire life, like living in like a lonely family, a lonely household. So let's say that person, we're talking to like that individual right now. When it comes to friendship and like feeling really close, the same thing still applies. One thing you said earlier was like, oh, I understood that my friend didn't have like a lot of time for me, quote unquote, a lot of time. See, it's a part of our language and how we talk. But you said, okay, straight up, she doesn't have availability to speak as frequently as we were, right? And one thing that you said I want to highlight to everybody is you said, oh, but that didn't change the love that we had. And I think a part of the reason why it didn't change the love that you had, Vicky, is because you could be so understanding of where your friend was at. And that right there, when you're talking to somebody and you're understanding like their world, like you can feel so connected with them just by doing that, like understanding, like truly empathy is so underutilized, I think, in our social media world, but it's so connective. So to give an example, when I was, well, I'm going to give you a different example and then okay. So one of my clients, like this comes up often where they are like, oh my gosh, like my friends like don't reach out to me. People don't, like reach out, initiate or whatever. That's something that comes up super, super often. And so one thing I always challenge them to do is to actually like write down like the people that like reach out to them or the people that are investing in them in some type of way because it allows you to see, oh, connection is already around me and already being poured into me. And I've been doing this for a long time, y'all. I've been doing this for 6 years. I have never not had somebody be like, oh my gosh, I completely didn't notice that like this person is reaching out, etc. Um, but I will also have them do is I will have them be like, okay, what do you think this person's world is like right now? And that question is so connective. Um, and I think with our friends, sometimes what happens is we can fall into some thinking patterns that are a little unhelpful about other people, right? Like there's something called fundamental attribution error. It's when you assume that somebody is doing something because it's a character flaw compared to when you do it, it's like
Yeah.
just a mistake or a circumstance, right? Like so if my friend doesn't text back, that's because they're careless, they don't care about us, or you know, they're always distracted. Whereas it's you, it's like, oh, I had a really busy week. That's why I didn't
Yeah.
text back, right? So there's something called fundamental attribution error. And I think when it comes to our close friendships, we can kind of like hold our friends to that. But getting really curious about like what's going on in their world is so connective. One of my favorite quotes of all time is from Abraham Lincoln, and it's him saying like, I don't like that person. I must get to know them better. And the reason why I love that quote so much is because it shows, oh, once we understand like a bit about somebody, once we see a bit more of somebody, it's just true. It doesn't matter like how different someone is to you. You're more likely to like feel affection for them, right? Like, and I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that. Like one of my best friends growing up didn't like me at first, which like, can you imagine? That's so silly. But she didn't like me at first, and the more like we started talking, this is now one of my best friends for like 20 years. So I I just want to offer, I guess, like when it comes to friendship, like utilizing a lot of the things that we talked about today doesn't just apply for like if you're like increasing your social fitness and like creating new friends. It also applies with your existing friends and relationships.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I'm just mindful of the time, and I do, speaking of time, have pick up my son. But I think what's really fun, there's a lot of huge things that Jules shared today. Um, but I think what's really fun, why I also was like, come on, is because I also think it's really interesting for people to see what's possible as a time coach and applying
Mhm.
it like to different areas, to different goals. I would love for you to share a little bit with the people about what you've been up to since certifying and what you're going on to create if you're comfortable.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you. Um, yeah, so since being certified, I went back to school,
Mhm.
um, and doing all the internships. So I'm going to be a psychotherapist, and my goal is to do something that's called social prescribing. So I have been like intentionally like slowing down, like coaching. I still have tons of resources and I have a course coming soon. So if y'all are interested in like friendship, there'll still be resources. I'm obsessed. I can't not. Um, but my goal now is to start like a social prescribing clinic. So social prescribing is actually done very well in the UK and in Spain. And it's where it's like in addition to any like therapy or like pharmaceuticals, like somebody might prescribe, it's also they prescribe like a community-based activity that is really fit for that individual. So, like gardening groups, walking clubs, art classes, and it's so much more than just that. That's the brief thing. So, yeah, because of like time hacking, like I filled my life honestly with things that I really love, right? So I went back to school. I'm working on that goal. I've been slowing down coaching and focusing more on friendship, like education and speaking, because I really want to help, especially like universities and schools, but also just any organization, like feel more connected, and have the tools to create deeper bonds. So I've been doing that. And I'm also on the board of a nonprofit. Which is like a whole other spiel. But I'm doing these things, right? And still, I don't think my friends would tell you that I've been, you know what I mean? Like less connected, less present. I don't think my partner would, and I'm, still having, quote unquote, having the time to work out and do the things that I really care about. So, yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's such a powerful example of like, I just think you are now leading a change that you want to see. And it's like, for everyone listening, I think sometimes we tend to make decisions like, as in, this is the decision that's going to be forever. And I just love watching and being part of your evolution and knowing that now you are leading something in your area that doesn't exist or exists on such a time. I think you said one other person across the US has done it. Like,
Hmm.
this is such powerful work, what it requires of you, what it requires of you in terms of like bravery and boldness and feeling all the feels and getting
Yeah.
started and creating. And like you say, I think often we use um lack of time as a reason not to do something versus like just not having that be on the table because you have the intention, you have the commitment, and you know how to achieve results. So just celebrating you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I went, "Oh my gosh, yeah," because it is really uncomfortable sometimes for sure. And yeah, truthfully, I time hacking principles are really just like how I live my life now. Like truthfully. So, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone listening. I'm going to have the team leave in the show notes a link to a private podcast that I've done about becoming a time coach. So if you're listening and you're thinking like, maybe this could be the door for me to open or explore, then you can do that. And we're also going to leave the link in the show notes to Jules' website. Is that the best place or social media?
Yeah, yeah, definitely my website.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And then when she has her friendship course up there, you can go check it out. Thank you so much for being here. Great to reconnect with you and catch up on all the things.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks everyone for listening.